Right folks, so let me talk you through UV mapping. In this video I want to show you how to begin to texture bake, and the first step for that is to make sure that you have two layers in your scene. One is going to be your high poly model, and make sure that's on its own layer, and the next one is going to be your low poly model. So you can see if I've got these both visible that they're almost on top of each other. They're traced very, very close and mirroring each other, almost really, really similar. You'll notice what I've done before I start UV mapping. On my low poly axe, I've selected both the objects here, and I've made sure that my mesh display is set to soften edge. Now this will allow the UV mapping to work a little bit better, and when we take the textures it should transfer a little bit nicer. We'll go with it and see if it makes the right difference, so it's worth noting just to make sure that you do that before. Okay, so what I've got here is two objects. Okay, I've kept them separate for now, and I'm going to UV map both of them. So let's first off do something very similar and UV map this this wooden part here. Now I make sure I'm in object mode and I've got it selected, and you want to come up to UV, and I can either use cylindrical or automatic. So let's have a look at both of those. Now cylindrical, what it will do, it will try and take a UV projection all around that object, and let's have a look at the UV editor and see what it's done. So you can see here, this one show as well, this is what it's done, so it's messy. Okay, so you can see if I float over this, can you see that actually on my axe it's tried to take a projection of it all and lay it all flat, but some of it hasn't quite worked. Now that's because it's not a perfect cylinder. Now I could do a bit of editing here, cut some of these, sew it together. What I'm actually going to do is, if it is messy, try again with a different UV projector. So let's just try automatic. Okay, hit UV, go to UV editor. Right, so if I just put this so we can see our UV shells. Here we go. So let's go on face. Right, so this has actually worked a little bit better because it's not that perfect cylinder. These faces are marrying and look very similar to our axe itself. So you know, if I come around and you can see on here it's matching up a little bit nicer. If I just select all these faces, right, they're all, a couple of these at the top, a couple at the bottom. So what a case of doing is picking each shell and figuring out, if I just come off this, look at the faces. Right, so this is the top. You can see that if you look at the top of my axe, these faces should be at the top. That's the bottom, so that's the right way up. But come on to this side, that's the bottom, so that's the right way, and that's the bottom. So the only one that's kind of upside down is this one. So what I would do is go to shell, pick this, and all of your move tools work the same. So I'm just going to rotate it like that. Okay, so if we just go back to face, you can see now, hopefully, there we go, as I come down, that's marrying up nicely. Okay, if I rotate around, go to this shell, so this is like the back of my axe, which we will see a fair bit if it's going to be like a first person game. So we want to make sure that we haven't got any seams there, we want to leave that as it is. This is the other side. Okay, cool. And then this side, the inside, is just here. And let's just run down the faces, make sure. Yeah, so that's marrying up. This bit is, let's have a look, the bottom, and this one is the top. Okay, so let's just click on that shell, move that to the top just so it kind of helps us. And what you need to do now is tidy it up. If you imagine you've, this is like your t-shirt, okay, that you'll wear, like maybe it's a t-shirt or a piece of clothing, and if you undo the seams and laid it all out flat on a table, there's obviously lines where we sew the materials together, and what we need to do is make sure that when we lay this all out flat, that we leave the bits where it's going to be sewn in a place where we're not going to see it. So like I say, if this is like a first person game and we might only see like this kind of thing, we could get away with the seam running down this middle edge here, because we probably won't see it as much. So you need to decide where the seam's going to be. Sometimes, across this top bit, the seam could work well on this edge loop, because we'll probably have a slightly different wooden texture on the top, so it doesn't matter if there's a bit of a seam there. So we just need to decide where that's going to be, and get it working accordingly. So the tools that you can do to use this, if let's say we do the top, now you see how the majority of the top is about right, but we're kind of missing off a face there, and we're missing off a face here, and they will be these ones. See, so I want to attach these to here. So the tools that you'll use for this is move and sew, or cuts. Very simple. So let's say I go to edge, okay, and I want to select these, and I'm going to cut them. So cut UV edges. Okay, double click on them, and I've cut those edges now. So this is a separate shell. So I can go to back to my move tool, go to shell, and now I can match this to the other bit. So hopefully these edges, yep, you can see how when I hover over this edge, it's obviously the same edge. So I can sew these together quite easily. So what I tend to do is move them roughly to where you need them. Oops. Sorry, I meant to grab the shell. And then you can select edge again, and we're going to move and sew. Now, so if move and sew isn't up here, you want to go to polygons, move and sew UV edges. It's just here. So you click on that, and it will sew it together. Now, if you hit G, it should repeat the final excuse me, the last tool that you've used. So it saves you going up to the menu all the time. So hitting G will move that back. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to roughly move these. So we've got our top. Okay, that would do for now. We're missing a face just on this bit. This face there, so we just need to find that. Hence this one. So if we go to edge, click on that. There we go. So we need to grab this bit too. So same thing. Let's cut it. Double click. Shell. Select this one. Move it over here. And then edge. So I'll just rotate that a little bit. Go. Edge and move and sew. Okay, so we can probably get away with moving and sewing these edge bits here too. Okay, and now we've got the top bit sorted. Now obviously it needs a bit of tweaking, and relaxing, just like we did with the the quad drill. Let's have a quick look, see if this works. So if I just select this shell and hit this button, unfold, what it will do is it will unfold it and try and keep it as natural and as big as high resolution as possible, which is fine. We've got that now, and that's great. We can keep that. But what I might do is obviously scale that down because it's a bit big. So just as a note, your UV map, once you've laid everything out, needs to fit within this one square. So that's going to be your final texture. Okay, so this is, imagine this grey area here as your material. So if you're making a t-shirt, you have to fit all of the parts within this space here. So for example, we need to make sure that we've got all of our wooden bit, our top bit, and our blade all fitting in this square. Now the size will probably be dictated by how big each bit is and where you want the detail. So obviously the blade needs to look amazing and the wood needs to look quite good as well. So these top bits are going to be small, so we can keep them really small. So we don't need to use up all our room. The majority of the room in there should be dedicated to the bits that we want to look cool. Okay, so I'll do the same thing on the bottom. So I need to tidy the bottom bit up. So if we have a look, we're missing some of these edges. So if I go along and try and find them, they're probably going to be these ones, aren't they? So you can see this bit, that one, those two, and those two. Okay, so it's just the same thing. I'll go through, cut these out and attach them to this. So I'll do it one more time, and then you have a go at UV mapping something nice and simple and see how you get on using these tools. So I'm going to use my cut tool again, double click on that, double click on that, double click on that, double click on that. Okay, and then shell mode. Whoops, let's just go to remove tool, go to shell, and then let's just move these over here. I know a lot of people moan about UV mapping, but I think it's not that bad. You know, when you get to grips with it, it's actually quite a nice challenge, I think. So if we go to edge, and then we can figure out where each bit should go. So like I say, just kind of get them roughly in place. Okay, so this one needs to kind of come down here and rotate a little bit. So this one needs to rotate. And the reason I kind of move them a little bit to begin with is because when you hit move and sew, it will just stretch it automatically, and sometimes it can get really messy. So just make sure that you are, let's have a quick look. So yeah, there's our two edges there. So this shell needs to come over here and rotate. Okay, so oops, I think we're in the right place. Let's just go to edge and just check. So yeah, those two go together, those two go together. Okay, cool. So just a case of polygons, move and sew, and then hitting shortcut G to sew these together. So let me just do that one first, that one, and then I'm going to sew these as well. Okay, and remember, so shell, and then unwrap. There you go. So it's a similar kind of thing. So then we're just going to scale it down and have it roughly the same size as our top. So what I'll do now is I'll be doing the same thing and sewing the wooden elements together. Okay. So I want the seam to be this line here. so down the very middle of where we can't see it. Okay, so I'm going to cut tool again, and I'm going to cut down the middle there, and then I'll be doing the same thing. I'll just pick my shell, and I need to make sure that the edges are on, so you can see this side needs to come over here, because these edges are all going to get sewn together. Okay, and then this side, so this shell needs to come over here, and they're going to get sewn together. And then finally, let's go to the edge again. So we need to find the right bit. So you see how this one needs to come next, and sew together. And then finally, just run our edges down there, and there we go, shell, and that's going to sew together. Okay, let's see what happens. So it's always a bit of a learning experience when it comes to UV mapping. Sometimes you think it's going to work great, sometimes it doesn't. So what we've done now is that this is, go to face mode, these faces are down the back of the axe, coming around to these faces which run down the side, so you can see they're going down the side, and around to this side, and then, yeah, there we are. So you can see these faces, they're going to go there. Now we've got an edge here, so this edge loop that runs all the way down this line is going to be the seam, and I put it there because, as I said, we're going to be seeing the axe from this view, so we're not really going to see that seam. Okay, coming around to the other side then, these faces, so this edge, let's just do faces easier. I'll do it here, I'll come to the side, they're going to match up, yeah, and then they're going to come round, and then so you can tell that this edge here, this bit, you can see how it's highlighted here and here. So it doesn't matter if they're not connected on my UV map, because that's where it will get sewn together and wrapped around when we reapply it to our model. Okay, so it's just a case of me going along now and moving and sewing these edges together. So I'll start doing this, and in the next video I'll do the same process but for the blade. So polygons, move and sew, and you can see exactly what I just said about it being a bit messy. So maybe you start off with the bits that are closer. So let's just hit G, there you go. A bit nicer, it's not overlapping as much. Easier to work with. Okay. And you'll find that when you get to grips with this, it's really not as evil as you think it's going to be. So, sewing these up. I'm just selecting the edges and hitting G. There we go. And then same bit on there. And if it gets messy like this, hit the shell and wrap it again. So see what it does, it lays it out flat and tries to stretch it across the entire edge. Move and sew, because I've picked a different item. So looking odd, I know, once I hit the shell again and then unwrap it, there we go, just tied it up again. So now it's just a case of attaching this side. So let's just move this a little bit closer so it's matching up. And so we do it on more time. So edge, so edit something else. So new, so go along. There you go, and I'll do one more time, hit shell, select it all, and wrap it, and you guys just sort of tidied it up and kept it as neat as possible. So you can see now that that is my entire axe, wooden axe handle UV mapped. I've got my bottom there, which I'll just scale down a little bit more so it matches roughly the size, and then the top. And I'll scale that again a bit. Again, you know, think about the quality. If we're looking from this view, we're going to see the top more than we're going to see the bottom. So you might want to make that a little bit larger than the bottom, because you might not see the bottom at all. At the top, you will see it a fair bit. So it's probably a good idea to make sure that it's nice and big, so we can have a nice high resolution wooden top to our axe. Okay, cool. So let's just check it's the right way up. Faces, so yeah, as I move down, it's going down my axe, and this is the top, that's the back of the axe as well. It just rotates the bottom here, and that's the back of the bottom. Great, so that's as neat as I need it, and what I'll do now is do the same thing but for my axe, and I'll do that in the next video.